Dear friend, today in this session, let us try to look into indicators of infrastructure. This is part of our course MSD 016, that is Strategies and Models of Sustainability, and it is for block 1, means it is the second session of this course. We know that infrastructures that perform badly have a significant negative impact on economic growth, and it causes considerable dissatisfaction among users. So the main challenge is to identify the technical and social aspect of infrastructure system. Then to understand the exact effectiveness of the existing infrastructures, its longevity on the basis of sustainability, what we need. We need to use indicators to assess the contribution of infrastructure in every aspect, especially to sustainable development. We are trying to achieve sustainable development goals by 2030. It is a global common effort. And in that, SDGs 17 that sustainable development goals. You will see goal number 9, that is industry innovation infrastructure, that the major objective is to build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. So the point is, let's talk about the infrastructure. As we also know that economic growth, social development, and especially in this era of climate change, these climate actions, they are heavily depend on investment in infrastructure, sustainable industrial development, and technological progress. At the same time, we need to establish standards and promote regulation that ensure the company, project, and that initiative in a sustainable managed way. So to achieve that, there is need for collaboration with NGOs and the public sector to help promote sustainable growth within developing countries. We need to think about how industry impacts on our life, or in your life and well-being, and use social media to push for policymakers to prioritize the SDGs. So, this SDGs Goal 9, industry, innovation and infrastructure, have 8 basic targets and with 12 indicators. So today, when we talk about indicators of sustainable that infrastructure, we're going to look into those indicators from the lens of goal number 9 of Sustainable Development Goals. If you look into targets of goal number 9 of the 8 target, first target is we need to develop quality, reliable, and sustainable, resilient infrastructure to support economic development and human well-being with a focus on affordable and equitable access for all, across all, including regional and transborder infrastructure. So, to look into the progress made to achieve this target, 2 important indicators is, one is the proportion of the rural population who live within 2 kilometers of an all-season road. Then second is the volume of your passenger and freight by different mode. Because it is not only about your all-season road, it is about how much that facilities you are giving in terms of quantity and quality. So these are the basic indicators to understand your quality, reliable, sustainable, resilient infrastructures with a focus on affordable and equitable access for all. The second target of this goal is promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization. By 2030, 2030 is our achievement. That is, we are targeting that year. We know that if we improve industrialization in a sustainable way, industrialization here, one is it gives employment, and it also share or raise gross domestic product, GDP. So that needs to be promoted in an inclusive way through sustainable industrialization that looks into in line with national circumstances. Especially, it has to be focused on underdeveloped, least developed country. So to look into this progress, what we need to look as an indicator. So in that, two basic indicators is, one is manufacturing value added, MVA, as a proportion to GDP and per capita. That is one indicator. Another is MVA, means manufacturing value added as a proportion of the total employment. As you know, infrastructure is directly related to your economic growth in one side, another is we are talking about employment. So we have to look to these two parameters to check the progress of inclusive and sustainable industrialization. The third target of SDG goal number 9 is increase the access of small scale industrial and other enterprises, especially in particular to developing countries, to financial services, including affordable credit and their integration into value chain market. To look into that progress, the main indicator is proportion of small scale industries in total industry value added. That means promoting small scale industry, right? Then proportion of small scale industry with a loan or line of credit, this is also one of the indicator. Because when we are talking about promoting or increasing the access to small scale industry and enterprises, sometimes they need money, so that has to be provided by the government or others. So that's why these two parameters are used as an indicators to look into the progress. The fourth target is by 2030, we need to upgrade infrastructure, retrofit industry to make them sustainable with increased resource use efficiency and a greater adoption of clean and environmentally sound technologies and industrial process across all countries in accordance with their respective capabilities. The indicator to assess the progress of this target is carbon dioxide emission per unit value of added. The fifth target, scientific and research is one of the important component of infrastructure. So the fifth target is enhance scientific research, upgrade the technological capabilities of industrial sectors in all countries, particularly in developing countries by 2030, increasing innovation, substantially increasing the number of research and development workers per million of people, and public and private research and development spanning. That means indirectly it says that we have to promote research, innovation and development across all sectors. So indicators to look into the progress of this target is research and development expenditure as a proportion of GDP of that country. One. Then researchers, not per time, the research equivalent to full-time researchers per million inhabitants. So to measure that indicator is, one is your expenditure on research and development as a proportion of GDP, other is the per million inhabitants, how many full-time researchers is working, right? Then the sixth target is, we need to facilitate sustainable and resilient infrastructure development, especially in developing countries, through enhanced financial, technological, and technical support to especially African countries, least developed countries, landlocked developing countries, small island developing states, because they have, that economically they are weak as compared to developed country. So to look into that collaboration, how much developed country is, or that inter-country support is happening. So the indicator to look into the progress of that target is total official international support, that is total official development assistance plus other official flows to infrastructure. Then target 7 is to support domestic technology development, research and innovation in developing countries, including by ensuring a conducive policy environment for inter-area industrial diversification and value addition to commodities. To look into the progress of this target, indicator is proportion of medium and high-tech industry value added in total value added. 8. Target is that significantly we need to increase access to information and communication technology and strive to provide universal and affordable access to the internet in least developed countries. To look into that progress, proportion of population covered by a mobile network by technology in these least developed countries. So these are some of the targets and the indicators under Sustainable Development Goal 9 that talks about, that focus on infrastructure. Now what is the progress, overall progress? Despite many progress across the globe, the industrialization in least developed countries is still too slow to meet the 2030 targets of goal number 9. If you look into the global share of manufacturing value added MVA in GDP, it is increasing only marginally from 15.9% in 2008 to 16.5% in 2018, means 10 years. So in case of least developed country, the share of manufacturing in total GDP increased by 2.5% annually between 2015 and 2018. However, that still falls short of the pace needed to be achieved doubling of the MVA share in GDP by 2030, and we need to accelerate the action in this direction. If you look in here, you will see here that the worldwide, in 2008, that manufacturing value added MVA is 16.5 in 2018, but it was from 15.9 in 2008. So in the same way, if you look into small island developing country, and then it is reducing, you see from here, you will be able to understand the progress so far made on this particular indicator of manufacturing value added share in GDP between 2008 and 2018 in terms of percentage. So here in Oceania, you will find out it was 7% in 2008, but it is reduced into 2018, it is 5. So in the same way, different countries have different figures, right? Then the another is, the progress is small scale industries in the poorest countries lack the financial services that need to grow and innovate. As we know that these small scale industries are the backbone of industrial development in most of the developing countries, but with a relatively small amount of capital investment and a predominantly local resource-based small-scale industries generate a substantial amount of employment and self-employment that is happening. Then as we know that in the progress, higher tech manufacturing is that worldwide except in sub-Saharan Africa. And recently, in the recent past few years, we have seen a steady shift away from resource-based, low-tech manufacturing activities towards that those that are medium high to high tech, right? Then those higher tech manufacturing sectors are often reliant on the latest technology and produce a wide array of consumer goods from computers, television, other communication devices to appliances and other household equipment. So the demand for such products tend to increase as income level rise. That shows that we are going in a better way. So the share of medium, high and high tech industries in total MBA manufacturing value added increased from 40.5% in 2002, 44.7% in 2016. But some disparities across all the region. You will find here in this diagram or in this figure, which is from the SDG report 2020. Here you will see that worldwide it is increasing from 2000. In 2000 it was 40.5 and it is now 44.7 in 2016. So these are the scenery of different countries. You can look here. Then in terms of global spending on research and development, it has reached $2 trillion a year with wide disparity. Disparities will be always there among different countries. If you look to the proportion of global GDP invested in research and development, it increased from 1.52% in 2000 to 1.68% in 2016. So in absolute terms, we can say that global research and development investment reached $2 trillion. That's in terms of purchasing power parity means $2 trillion, $2 trillion in 2016, up from $739 billion in 2000. This represents an average annual growth rate of 4.3% when adjusted for inflation. So but you will find out wide disparities among different regions. So in case of Europe and North America, you will see 2.21% of GDP was spent on research and development in 2016, and compared to 0.42% and 0.83% in respectively in Sub-Saharan Africa and West Asia. So this disparity across the globe indicates that there is continuing need for strong policy support to increase or for increasing financing for research and development, especially in developing countries. And in terms of mobile cellular network, you will see that almost everyone now lives within the range of mobile cellular network, but that doesn't mean that we are 100% mobile cellular network covered by mobile cellular network, because some of them are not able to afford to use them. But if you look in the figure, you will find out that this in 2018, 96% of the world's population live within reach of a mobile cellular signal, and 90% of people they could access the internet through a third generation 3G or higher quality network. While however, if you look into the other figure, most live within the range of these 3G signals. Not all are able to take advantage of them. So the cost of accessing mobile cellular network and mobile broadband internet remain too high for many countries, particularly the most disadvantaged and at-risk population group. In fact, if you look into least developing country, half of the world population, that especially in the LDCs, their rate of that accessing to this particular infrastructure is very low, only about 20%. Here you will see the figure from this figure that higher this LTE and here we will see that mobile connection network long-term evolution or higher that beginning from 2007 to 2018. And that cover that is number of people covered by a mobile network. You will see here the internet users and world population. You will see here that it's okay. So in this figure, so that means it is increasing very fast. That infrastructure, this particular infrastructure, we are able to achieve at least up to some extent the desirable target. Again, if you look into India, India is implementing an unprecedented reform, that unprecedented reform agenda to trigger manufacturing, spur this industrialization, promote investment, foster innovation. Some of the major structural reforms are such as implementation of GST, goods and service tax, that FDI regime, liberalization, then ease of doing business, and introduction of the insolvency and the bankruptcy code that have been progressively made in the last few years. And we are focusing on the digital revolution, internet penetration, and financial inclusion. They are contributing to fueling growth in the investment. Some of the flagship programs like, we have Make in India program, Startup India program, Stand Up India program, and Skill India. These programs are playing an essential role in augmenting the collective growth impact. So, these reforms are first creating a highly conducive ecosystem, accelerating the growth of innovation, creativity, entrepreneurship, and business within fast-growing formal economy. This is the status of what India is, achieving. So, if you look into infrastructure, India has made commendable progress in the provision of basic infrastructure designed to spur growth. If you look into the construction of national highways or roads, that increased from 4,410 kilometers in 2014-15 to 10,824 kilometers in 2018-19. We have 12 major ports have cargo handling capacity of 1,477.22 million tons in 2018-19, and which has grown by 84%. That is to be 801 million tons in 2014-15, right? And in the same way, that India's industrial corridor is one of the world's largest infrastructure project with an estimated investment of $90 billion. It is planned as a high-tech industrial zone that spread across 6 states, which would act as an industrial hub for trade and commerce and provide industrial hub zones across the nation. In terms of communication, India has made a considerable headway in communication technology in the recent past few years. India's internet users base has exceeded 500 millions and is approximately 761.29 million in the month of January 2021. Nearly 87% of this user base is defined as regular base, and over 200 millions are in rural India. 200 millions are in rural India. These advances of this communication technology will provide impetus to the government's efforts to use communication technologies to improve skills and facilitate business activities. It's very important for development of infrastructure. In terms of research and development, we should lead a more significant generation of intellectual property rights which can be economically exploited. So, in this line, the process of recognizing such IPR, intellectual property rights, they are streamlined and expedited. Government has strengthened the Office of Controller and General of Patent, Design and Trademark. It's called, as in short form, this is CGBDTM, by appointment of a large number of examiners controllers. So, this helps increase examination of design to 12,661 in 2018-19 from 7,545 in 2015-16. That is almost double from 2015-16. And that of patents to 85,436 in 2018-19 from 16,853 in 2015-2016. These tremendous changes. And the registration of design and that design product that increased to 9,512 in 2018-19 from 7,904 in 2015-16. So the grant of patent witness spurt during this period, raising from 15,284 in 2018 from 6,326 in 2015-16. This is more than double. So, by this helps to bring down total time taken in the grant of IPR significantly, which is one of the major hurdles in developing infrastructure, improving the livelihood of the people. So in the area of science technology, the scientific ministries and departments of government have active international collaboration both at the bilateral and regional level. So today, India is engaged in active research and development cooperation with more than 44 countries across the globe, including advanced, emerging, developing nations. So when you talk about skilling, what is also one of the important component of infrastructure. And if you look into from the point of SDG goal number 9, it is an essential component of India's plans to accelerate industrial growth. Ours is Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana that enables the youth of the country to upskill themselves by gaining industry-relevant skills which will bridge the gap between the skills demanded by the industry and those offered by the educational training institution. This is also going very well. Based on NITI Aayog 2019, you will see here in this figure that road connectivity has increased at the national level. Close to 70% of the targeted habitation have been covered under Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana (PMGSY). During 2018-19, 5 states, Arunachal Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Jharkhand, Gujarat and Kerala, they have achieved the target of providing 100% connectivity under PMGSY. When you look into employment in the manufacturing sector again, as per PLFS, means Periodic Labor Force Survey 2017-18, 12.13% of India's total workforce was engaged in the manufacturing industry. It shows that we are developing infrastructure at the very first way. Among the states, the highest share of the workforce employed in manufacturing was in Gujarat, that's about 20.04%, and Daman and Diu, that's about 61.3% among the Union Territories. And again, if you look into internet density and mobile tele density, presently for every 100 people in the country, 88% have a cellular connection, while only 49% have an internet subscription. Interestingly, if you look into the cellular density, we have more over 100% in 6 states. That is Himachal Pradesh, Punjab, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka and Gujarat and the Union Territory of Delhi. With 205 internet subscription for every 10%, Himachal Pradesh tops the country in internet subscription density. And internet access is highest in Delhi among the Union Territories at 138 subscription per 100 people. Right. There are some challenges in developing infrastructure. When you talk about indicators of infrastructure, we have to understand the challenges also, especially due to the global pandemic during the last 1 year. Because promoting inclusive and sustainable industry and continuing to invest in physical infrastructure, innovation and resources, they are vital to long economic development. So that investment in research and development globally in financing for economic infrastructure in developing countries has increased, but due to the pandemic, we have to deal a severe blow to manufacturing transport industries, and that is because of pandemic causing disruption in global value chains and supply of product as well as job losses and declining work hour in these sectors. So in developing countries, you will find out that manufacturing jobs are an essential source of incomes, are key to poverty reduction. So because of that, because of this particular COVID-19, it's affecting, destabilizing the economy, and that is hurdles and threatening even reverse progress towards SDG 9 and other allied goals. And for example, if you look into the aviation industry, which is one of the driver of economic development, they suffer a lot, and steepest decline is evidenced during the last 1 year in its history. And we already saw the slow manufacturing growth that as a result of pandemic. And if you look into that global manufacturing output growth, that declined 6% in the first quarter of 2020 due to economic lockdown measures. If you took in, for example, in China, the world's largest manufacturing manufacturers that was wall off by COVID-19 the first quarter of the year, registering unprecedented drop of 14.1% in manufacturing output. Since we know that manufacturing is considered an engine for economic growth, overall economic growth, the global slump in manufacturing production, then they have a serious impact on the global economy due to this pandemic. Then if you look into better access to financial service for small-scale industries, which is needed to resuscitate the global economy. Like these small-scale industry enterprises are a major source of employment in developing and emerging economies. They are central to income generation and the elevation of poverty, but because of this global economy, then we have to understand how to cope up with all these things when we are trying to recover the global economy post-COVID-19. And they are also, this small-scale industry, they are also vulnerable due to their small size and limited resources. They do not have capacity to deal with unexpected shocks such as current crisis without the help of the government. So government also needs to look into that. In terms of investment in research and development, that needs to be accelerated, in part, to cope with COVID-19. And we know that the importance of increase in investment in research and development and in a faster rate, especially during this COVID-19. So most investment is needed especially in pharmaceutical industry and emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence that can exist or which can assist in developing drugs and vaccines and in managing related services and resources in this. Then if you look into mobile connection, they are practically universal, but half of the global population is offline, mostly in developing country because of, especially in COVID-19, we have forcing many to work, learn, seek healthcare, and socialize from home. Digital technologies, internet, play an important role in that time, and it has become one of the basic infrastructure. So to access the internet, mobile connection provide flexibility, particularly in places where fixed broadband service is unavailable or unaffordable for some part of the people, some section of the society. So the point is that we have to understand the impact of all these sectors, starting from in different sector infrastructure due to COVID-19 pandemic. So in today's session, we have looked into the basic targets and the indicator of infrastructure. That is basically we focus on sustainable development goals that talks on the central objective of that goals is developing the infrastructure, and we have quick look into the global scenario of the progress of that particular goal and in Indian context. So these are the references which I use to give this presentation, and I am sure you can also look into this presentation for your references for your further explore more on this area and to understand more in the area of this sustainable indicators of infrastructure. So for today, thank you very much. We'll meet you in the next session. Thank you very much.